Hi, I'm Kyle.
And I'm Josh.
And we're
Fear the Queer,
a podcast that talks about everything on our gay agendas, from politics and media
to race and relationships. So sit back, relax, as we spill the tea.
Fear the Queer. That was beautiful.
That was good.
I know.
Thanks. Good evening, listeners, and thank you for tuning in to episode 2 of season 2 of Fear the Queer.
On today's episode, we will be talking about queer spaces and our thoughts and feelings about them. Before we begin, Josh, what are we drinking tonight?
We are drinking, what is this called again?
The Queer Space Spritzer.
Yes, which includes 2 parts rosé, 1 part strawberry lemonade vodka, filled up with soda water, garnished with some grenadine.
And cheers.
Cheers. Light and airy and fresh, just like safe spaces should be.
And it will be refreshing, just like our thoughts on the topic.
Yes. You can also check out the recipe on our Instagram post and blog post as well. Anyway, so let's get right into it. Well, Kyle was chugging his drink, actually.
Well, it's really good. It's really refreshing. No, because, like, you don't taste it that much, but you're like, I feel like I'm on RuPaul's Drag Race, like, when they go to the back for Untucked, and they have the little red thing. That's what it feels like right now. Did we cheers, queers?
Well, I'll do it again. Cheers, queers!
Cheers, queers!
Sorry.
It was so tasty.
We're clearly going to get drunk tonight.
And we're not already. So, queer spaces.
Yeah.
Where did they come from? What does it mean when we talk about queer spaces?
So, queer spaces, in my personal definition, actually translate to also safe spaces. And safe spaces, I mean, there's been a long history of them, especially during, like, women's movement marches. In the 1800s, there were a lot of gay bars, especially across Europe and Paris specifically. Basically...
In Berlin,
yeah. So basically, safe spaces have translated for mostly, in the queer community, gay bars.
Yes.
And gay bars have always been sort of like this underground, out of the public eye type of safe space, so that way gay men and women would be able to just enjoy themselves, be around the community, feel safe, be included, even though technically it didn't always work, they'd be rated.
Right, I mean, like, literally Stonewall Inn, the most famous, I think.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And the point of it back then was just sort of that way people can be able to be themselves out in public and not be fear of being persecuted for it. But now, today's day and age, especially considering the fact that homosexuality, the views of it have changed so drastically over the years, where do they stand now?
For sure. Yeah, and I think a lot of it goes into, when we talk about queer spaces, some of the first things are bars. And that's, like, I think the big one.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's community centers and different places that people can gather for lectures and stuff like that. And actually, some bars here in Chicago also do lecture-type spoken word nights and things like that, which is great. I think that's really cool that it's not just a place to go for a drink and, like, kiki with your friends, but you can also gain community in, a different way that isn't just boozing, which is okay too.
Right. But the question is, for our topic tonight in general, is how do these safe spaces actually, how inclusive are they, and where can we go from here, especially in this day and age?
Right, because I think that, like, for the most part, I feel fine going to a gay bar, but there's always this underlying uncomfortableness that I have. And it could be my anxiety, but it also is the kinds of guys that I see. While it's not necessarily their fault, but they're all the same body type, and most of them are all white. And it's like, this, like, age range, they look the same, and it makes me feel a little bit out of place when I walk in, like, a giant, like, blouse from the 80s and, like, glitter highlight.
Right.
Like, I'm just like, I don't feel unsafe.
Right.
But it's not always the most welcoming in that space.
Well, it's funny because it's like it becomes political even in the safe space, in the sense of, like, who are you catering to in this safe space?
Right.
And most of the time, just like in society, cis white gay men tend to be the ones who are the ones who don't even think about it.
When it's also the people with money.
That too.
Which they have more opportunity to do that. So
especially in a bar.
Right.
And
like let me just like preface also, there is like something good to be said about finding a similarity within our community.
Yeah.
And being like, oh yeah, we're all similar because we're all gay, or we're all like gender nonconforming, or whatever it might be that you are bonding over. But I feel like there's more power in the diversity that we can celebrate.
Right.
So I don't know. I think it's just finding those spaces that celebrate and include a more diverse clientele.
Right, exactly.
That I prefer.
Yeah, because, you know, as an Asian gay, sometimes even like when we go to predominantly white male gay bars, it is kind of interesting to look around and be like, okay.
Right.
So this is the crowd tonight. And even then...
And it was the crowd last night and the night before.
Right. And it's almost just like, am I going to stand out just by my skin color alone?
Right.
And a lot of the bars we go to in Chicago, like, we'll follow them on Instagram and things like that. And not saying, this is my just personal opinion, not saying that the gay bars that we go to tend to cater to this certain type of male audience, but when they post pictures on their websites and promotions and everything like that, usually it's the pretty men.
I think they do cater to that audience. Yeah. Like, I think that they do. And again, it's kind of like, it's like those bars that will have like all male nights.
Right.
I think that's total crap because all it does is
all
it just,
gay bars are male. Basically.
Right, and just like reinforces the misogyny that already is like within the LGBTQ community as a whole. But also like our society is just a giant patriarchal piece of shit.
Right.
So why should a place that is a safe space and a queer space that should, you know, welcome everyone, why is that like a male only night? It just feels very like, also what is male?
Right.
What is a male-only night?
Exactly. Like, what does that even mean?
Yeah.
What's that definition? Like, do you have to have...
Are you asking me?
No, yeah, I'm just like, what?
Right.
Hypothetically.
But then when you say male-only, are you saying, like, yeah, is it like... Okay, so are you cisgendered?
I was going to say, would you
include a trans man in that? You know, it's... Or gender not-conforming. Like...
Right. But that's the other aspect, too, when it comes to gender, too. It also seems like a lot of gay bars, at least when we go out... there tend to be a very large ratio difference between men and women at these bars.
Yeah.
And where do lesbians fit in? Where do trans women fit in?
Right.
You know?
And it's like trying to navigate that and still feel safe and still have fun.
Still be inclusive.
Still be inclusive. And it's really interesting. I was listening to this thing a while ago and I was talking about how a lot of places in Chicago closed down lesbian bars. I don't know why. And and their whole topic was why?
Right.
Why did they all close? It's just really interesting. So it's like when people who identify as women or femme want to go to gay places or gay bars that should be accepting, do they always feel accepted within those spaces?
Right.
I don't think they do. As someone who doesn't feel exceptionally masculine, I don't always feel accepted, but at the same time, you get to a point in your life where you're kind of like, you know what? Fuck it.
Yeah.
I'm here. I'm queer. I don't give a fuck. Give me my vodka soda.
Right.
And you still have fun because, you know, you're with your friends. And
right.
I will say that, like, most of the time when you go to these places, it's some of the few moments in my, I don't want to say routine, but in my environment that I actually feel safe in. That I can, like, let down my hair, metaphorically, and I'm not losing a wig.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? Like, it's like...
Well, right, and I'm not saying, like, these gay bars that I go to practically every weekend. I'm not saying that I don't love going to them, obviously.
Oh, I always have fun.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's just, you know, how do we explore it and become even better versions of what they're already providing to us?
Oh, this drink is really good. I'm sorry. You're having such a good thing, and it's really tasty.
Yeah. Kyle literally turned his head away from me just to
I was doing drink. Like a sneaky sip. You can hear the ice.
It is a good drink, I will say that. Anyway.
That's good. All right. So, what can we do to make it feel more inclusive? Does this mean that we have to have... Should bars be more mindful?
Well, I think it always comes from the ground up, first of all.
Mm-hmm.
So when you think of the bars, you know, the bartenders are the ones that you think are the ones that control most of the atmosphere.
Mm-hmm.
When we go to the place like Sidetrack, beautiful men, not judging them whatsoever, but most of them are beefy, muscled guys who...
And you have, like, maybe 2 female bartenders.
Right. And I haven't even seen a female bartender there in a long time.
Oh, I have. I saw her on Saturday.
Oh, all right.
Oh, not Saturday. It was Friday.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Well,
she
still,
was
anyway.
upstairs, yeah. Mm-hmm.
But still, even that, it's just like the one token woman.
Right.
Which-
Or, like, it's a little ageist.
Right,
Because
exactly.
you have, like...
The one older gentleman.
You have, like, 1 or 2 older gentlemen, and they're, like, put in the back bar.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's just like, I feel like from the ground up, that is a little bit...
So, like, making it more inclusive.
Yeah, I was going to say, why not add a little bit of diversity in the type of people you're presenting to the clientele?
Right.
Because if you're showing off just big muscly dudes who, like...
You're going to attract just big muscly dudes.
Right, exactly.
And then me.
Just in the corner. Come on,
And
guys.
I'm like, come on, guys. I want a drink. Give it to mama. But I think that's a very good point, because you go to places that you're going to feel accepted.
Mm-hmm. Because when you
and
think
it starts
about
with the people who work there.
Right, because when you think about the other types of bars that and again, this is just based on our personal experience of being alcoholics and going out every weekend.
It is not every weekend. It's every day.
But like when you think of like the dive-year bars, like the Closet and North End, where they actually have a more diverse set of bartenders. You know, you see
and it isn't necessarily like a club atmosphere either.
Right, that's true. It's like, oh, okay, you actually see a more diverse crowd in there.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, which I appreciate. So when it comes to like diverse crowds, though, how do you feel about like when straight people come into safe queer spaces?
It depends on how educated they are.
No, I feel that.
Yeah,
because I feel like if you're a friend of mine, I already know that you'll be chill with me in a queer space.
Right.
Like, I know that because I don't surround myself with people who are ignorant. I just don't have time for it anymore. It's just, like, not my thing. That being said, just this weekend, we went out dancing. And we were bombarded by straight couples at a gay bar, just taking up space. And when I go to these places, I want to feel comfortable. Like, I don't want to feel like, oh my god, I have to be careful. Because I feel like that all the fucking time.
Right.
So, it can be a little, like, I don't want to say triggering, but when you see, like, a straight couple taking up, like, 50% of the dance floor and, like, bumping into people and just being messy, like, this isn't a novelty. For most people, this is, like, the only time they get to be
completely themselves.
Right.
That's the point of a safe space.
Right. So, I guess...
It's funny, too, because some people try to make the argument that in order for heterosexuals to become more accepting of our lifestyle, quotation marks.
Oh god, I want to vomit at that term.
I know.
Yeah.
Like, we should be more inclusive. This should show them, like, this is our world, this is what we like to do, this is, like, you know, and so it becomes even more of a broader community.
Right.
That being said, I find that very insulting.
Because it's like, oh, all the gays like to do is go drink and party.
Well, also, like, why can't heterosexual people do that to us? Why do we have to be the ones to accept them?
To accept them. Right. Well, it's, like, funny because, like, they even will use the argument where it's like, well, there's gay people in straight bars. I'm like, yeah, and I fucking hate it.
Yeah.
Like, it's not a good time to me.
Not always. Yeah.
Not always. And I typically don't feel safe. I think people who go to gay bars and are cis hetero people and view themselves as, like, being, like, the good ally, it's like, no, you should just go and not say a fucking thing.
Right.
Just go and have a good time.
Right.
Because if you're like, wow, I'm such a good ally, I'm here, and it's like, get out.
Right.
Just get out.
Right. Stop being so self-serving.
Right. Very self-serving, yeah.
Right. Because we have one of our best friends, not saying she's necessarily, like, completely straight, but she identifies mostly as a cisgender heterosexual woman. Most of the time. You know. She comes out with us almost every weekend, and I would consider her one of the best allies you could ever think of, because, sorry, go ahead.
Well, no, I was just going to say, when we, there's a difference, though, because if you come out like every so often and you're like, wow, Boys Town, let's go with the gays, woo, it's so crazy, it becomes a novelty. Like, I'm not your fucking novelty.
Right.
But friends, that's like what I'm saying, is like friends who are out with us all the time, like that's someone who's actually supportive.
Right.
And goes to these bars and these places with us.
Right, exactly. And they don't necessarily make it sort of like an event.
Yeah, it's not trivialized.
Right, exactly. So I definitely think that is a big factor of whether or not I would want to accept a homo or a heterosexual into our safe space.
Right, yeah, no, it's a touchy subject.
Right. Because it's sort of just like, I don't know how to not put it so nicely, but it's just like, not everything is for you. And I wish people could just understand that and respect that.
Right. And I think that some people are like, well, how come it's supposed to be accepting? It's supposed to be all-inclusive. I mean, yeah, but like, why are you making it about you?
Right.
It's like going to drag shows and seeing girls get on stage and just completely take away from like the drag queens. It's like, no.
Right. This is not your time.
It's not your time, and it never was.
No.
Get out.
Right.
Yeah. Well, we sound really harsh.
We do sound really harsh, but that's not... well, whatever. Not saying that heterosexual people are not allowed into our safe spaces whatsoever.
No heteros allowed.
Right. It's just more in the sense of just be educated and just be a good person. It's really honestly, not
like,
that hard.
It's not, but like 95% of the people who are straight and come out with us, I don't view, like, they're not the people that I'm talking to about this.
No.
You know what I mean? Like, they already get it.
Right.
It's you know what it is? It's those people during Pride Month that will hit you up and be like, oh my god, we're going out dancing. Do you want to come? And it's like...
Or, oh my god, I want to go to Pride so much. I love Pride.
And you're like, oh, who are you?
Right.
Like, oh, I haven't heard from you in forever.
Right. Or, oh my god, like, I just love Boys Town. Like, it's just so much, it's just such a good time. I don't usually go out there, but every time I do,
every time I hear that, I cringe.
Right.
Because honestly, like, going to the gayborhood, it's not always fun for me to begin with. So if I go out, I'm like, all right, here we go. And then if I see, like, straight people, like, taking up space in queer spaces, I'm like,
well, I just think
I
it
don't
just
get
shows
shit.
like a sense of privilege.
It's total privilege.
You know, they don't have to take anything away from it, and they just get to move on and go on the next day. No big deal.
Yeah.
Now, transitioning from safe spaces for what we think are safe spaces, now we're going to talk about a little bit of, in today's world, especially considering the fact that the views of homosexuality have, you know, changed completely, and we also have the internet now and things like that. What defines a safe space in this day and age, and what is necessary and what isn't really necessary anymore?
Okay. Well, I think the internet is a great community builder. Yeah. Especially for people who can't go to bars. Right. Or who don't have access, you know, within their region to go to one. I think a community building could be considered even like an internet chat room. Right.
Because there's so many people, especially like LGBTQ youth, who can't get into gay bars.
Right. Or even drag shows. There's a lot of...
Like, they are the ones who probably need the safe space more than we do.
Right. And, well, honestly, it's just creating those spaces for ourselves.
Right.
What is... I don't want to say troublesome, but all these spaces are created because of a need. Right. Like, no one was just like, oh, we should have this for fun. We create it because there's... It's necessary. There's, like, not an acceptance.
It's necessary to survive.
Right. So... while that can be, like, frustrating, ultimately it becomes, like, a celebration. Yeah. Which is great. So, like, having those community centers and, you know, Chicago... Here's the thing. Chicago is broken up into these neighborhoods. So while we could say, like, well, Boys Town has a great community center of the center on Halsted, which it is. It's the largest in the Midwest. That isn't necessarily the best location... because you're in the gay neighborhood. Like, there's so many LGBTQ people who are on the south and west sides that can't always get there if they're feeling unsafe, or can't always get there for access to medical things.
Exactly.
Can't always get there for community, like, building.
Right. Especially if it's, like, in a dire situation and you have to, like, trudge, like, an hour and a half up there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's, like, it's difficult. It's a love-hate thing, because I'm like, it's great that we have this, but why is it only in a predominantly, like, white neighborhood area.
Right.
Like, it doesn't feel like it's necessarily serving everyone in the community.
No.
Now, there probably are organizations that do that.
Right, and I'm sure there are actually part organizations, like, in the South Side, on the West Side.
We just have to look into it.
Right, you would have to search into it and try to find something that hopefully helps.
Yeah.
Because, because it also has to do with the fact that the Center of Halstead also probably gets more funding than these other places.
Right. So it's just, like, creating the spaces that I guess we need as LGBTQ people.
Yeah.
Have you ever gone to a place that you thought was supposed to be safe and felt very unsafe or violated?
Not at the top of my head, but if you give me a moment. Have you?
Yes.
Really?
Yes. I won't call out the bar. And this happened like a couple years ago, but I was at a bar with some friends, and it was just like a chill night. And this guy walked up to me, and he started like whispering in my ear, and he was like, "Oh, I like your beige stash," which is like a crazy thing to say to someone.
It's gray.
It's gray. Oh! I do not have a gray mustache, and if I did, I'd rock it. But no, it was just like a weird thing to say to me, and I was like, "Okay, go away." And I thought like, "Oh, I should be safe. I should be like fine here." Well, he wouldn't go away, and what he ended up doing is he like pulled on my neck and started like making out with my ear, and I had to like push him off and be like, "Get the fuck off me." And my friends didn't realize what was going on because like we didn't expect that to happen, and I went home crying because I was so upset that I felt so violated in a space that should be safe. And it took like a good 2 years for me to actually want to go out again.
Yeah.
Because every time I would think about like, oh, do you guys want to do you want to go to Boys Town? Do you want to go dancing? I would just like, I think, internalize how upsetting that was to me and not make me feel safe. So it's like even outside of straight people, even people within the community, you never know.
Right.
You never know.
Right. I mean, it does make me think of all the times that we have been, like, hit on unnecessarily in times where it's just like, this isn't the right time or place for you to do this.
Right.
Like the time that we went to Roscoe's and that guy with the beer pitcher who was super drunk would not leave me alone.
What did I do? Because I usually need to be reminded of the good thing I did, but I don't remember this.
He's such a Leo.
I am such a Leo.
Well, no, the problem was because since we were watching a drag performance, we couldn't move, and this guy was literally right in front of me, and so he turned around and started touching me and like caressing me, and I couldn't get away from him, and so you tried to push me away.
Oh, okay.
But we couldn't move very far.
Right.
It was a little annoying too because at the time, the reason why we couldn't move is because we had a whole brigade of girls, straight girls watching the drag performance, and they wouldn't
move for us.
We're
like, we need to get through here, and they're like, "Man, don't cut."
Right.
I'm like, oh my god, like this guy will not stop touching my friend. Like,
yeah, get the fuck off. Anyway. So yeah, there have been times too where it's just like even a safe space feels a little violated.
So I think we just have to be better.
Right, but also too, you also have to consider the people who don't like the bar scene, who have anxiety going out, and interacting with other people.
Right.
How can they feel safe? And how can they not feel isolated?
And, I think that just goes into... I don't want to sound so trivial, but Google is a great resource. Like,
Google will solve your depression.
Google will solve your depression. Got me. But, you can look up and be like, okay, so, like, what bookstores are having, like, nights where people are talking, or sometimes there will be, like, queer authors that will come in. I remember one time I got to see Cleve Jones with our friend Jill, and it was actually at Sidetrack, one of the bars, and they did a big speaking event, and it was because his book, When We Rise, came out in paperback. Now, I've been following Cleve Jones for a while, and he just, a community activist, and worked with, like, Harvey Milk, and, all that stuff. So that was great, because you got a more diverse group for that speaking event, and then, there was food there, so I was eating a couple kebabs, and so...
You felt right at home.
I felt right at home. I was like, oh, they catered for moi. For moi!
They're like, sir, you're only supposed to have one sample.
And I was like, that's homophobic. So then, I'm trying to think of other places. I mean, even art galleries. A couple of years ago, going to this art gallery called Art AIDS America, felt so encompassing of not only like the gay experience, but also the AIDS epidemic. And the people going there, people going there either are LGBTQ or they have like such a respect for this, epidemic. Yeah. That you feel safe and you feel a sense of community. But yeah, no, I've been to different lectures and things like that. I went to a lecture, and we just kind of like poo-pooed. I don't want to say poo-pooed, but we were talking about location-wise when it comes to like the center in Halstead. Well, they do a lot of lectures that are great. And I went to one on LGBTQ activism from like early 20th century to now, and how much that has changed from like the 50s and the 60s to like the different kind of like little publications that came out, and then during Stonewall, and then post Stonewall, and then the AIDS epidemic, and now. And what was so interesting is when we were there, there was like two age ranges. It was like millennials and baby boomers. And it was like, why is there not like
the polar opposites?
Right, but somehow we were joined together, and the speaker was like, well, that's the thing, is the baby boomers have lived through it. Right. And the millennials are so like electrified by the current political climate that we're just like, yes, give us everything. Where like Gen X lived through, they were kids during the AIDS epidemic. Right. So that is such like a taboo, scary topic for them that the LGBTQ world isn't necessarily a place that they always felt was safe. Right. I just thought that was interesting. So I got a little off topic, but anyways, that's basically like, there are places to have these discussions that aren't necessarily a bar. Right. Thankfully. And there's like coffee and cookies served afterwards.
Is that how you're trying to get people to go?
Literally, coffee and cookies served afterwards, and kebabs. Yeah. Oh my god. I think there was also like these like little mini sandwiches. I have to ask Joe. There was like these little mini sandwiches. Stop it.
Are you hungry?
I'm a little hungry. But like, it was so, I don't know. Anyways, if you're going to like a queer space, I think the best thing to do is make sure if there's food. If there's food and refreshments, you'll probably see me there.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh, one time I was sitting at the bar and I was just like hanging out, having a beer, and the bartender walked up and just gave me a little bowl of Cheez-Its.
Aww.
He knew I was hungry.
He looked like you famished gay.
He's like, you look hungry, and I was like, ooh, thank you. And I just thought, like, why didn't you just give me the box? Did you just say Jesus or Cheez-Its?
Yeah.
Cheez-Its.
Cheez-Its. Well then, okay, let me ask you this then.
Yeah.
When you are not in what you consider your safe space or your safe zone,
right?
How do you assimilate to protect yourself?
Oh, see, that's interesting. I think, when I was younger, I used to try to, like, butch it up, and now I don't feel like I do that as much anymore. I think, like, it's kind of like code switching. So, like, if I'm in, like, let's say, a place that isn't Chicago, isn't the city, right, I will be much more aware of my tone of voice, my hand motions. There's moments where I'm like, fuck it. Like, I'll be at a place that, we'll be, like, in the suburbs or something like that, and I'm like, this isn't, I don't know if everyone's, like, gay-friendly here. And then it runs through my mind, I'm like, well, there's probably someone who, like, is super Trumpy and, like, a white supremacist and a homophobe or whatever. And then I'm like, I could get hate crimed. Yeah. You ever think that? You ever had those moments?
Not necessarily hate crime.
Mine was at a Coney Island in Detroit.
Go on.
Oh, no, basically there was just a lot of people wearing camouflage, and I was being very, like, myself. Yeah. And I just want to say that a lot of my life revolves around food. Yeah. Clearly. Yeah. And I'm like, I feel safe when you give me a kebab. Also, a homophobe almost got me after eating a hot dog. No, it was just like, you could tell that everyone was staring at me, and I was with my sister. And I was like, yeah, I feel like we're going to get hate crimed. And she was like, I don't know what you're talking about. And then we left and we got to the car, and she's like, I turned around and I realized everyone was like, giving looks. Yeah. So I don't know. It's kind of like, well, when straight people complain, like, we should be allowed in your spaces. It's like, you don't get those looks. Right. All I'm doing is talking.
Right, because we're not allowed in your spaces.
Right.
Hardly ever. Well, anyway.
Yeah.
In certain parts of the world, I guess.
What about you?
Well, it's funny because I feel like I've learned the defense mechanism of basically fighting back.
You are feisty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you want to try and come for me, I will just come for you harder.
Like a spider monkey.
Yeah. That's when I get loud. That's when I get bitchy. That's when I get in your face.
So you must feel insecure a lot.
Yeah, basically. But I feel like it's just like a defense mechanism that I've grown to use over the years to protect myself. It's like, you're not going to come for me. And I feel like the only way that I can protect myself is just like, if it's a fight or flight situation, I will fight. And that's why that's why I've been thrown out of bars a couple of times, because I've just been like, you know what? Like, you're not going to do this.
You also didn't have the money to pay. It's
yeah.
It's all right.
You know, you can't punch the bartender.
Josh, you need to get off the bar. This isn't Coyote Ugly. He's like, I'm Tyra Banks.
Sorry, this is McDonald's.
This is McDonald's. I'm still Tyra Banks.
Yeah. Weirdly enough, I actually feel like people will comment more about my race than they do my sexuality when it comes to shouting out derogatory terms. And I really have no idea how to fight back against.
So where would you find a safe space being an Asian American? And gay.
And gay. I guess for me, being in a big city where, you know, Chicago, like, there's so many different races.
It is more diverse.
Yeah, right? There's so much more diversity here. So race alone tends to kind of dwindle out here, thankfully. And with the gayness, it's just like, well, you just find your pockets and neighborhoods that tend to be more...
Right, accepting.
In terms of, like, let's say when I go home, I tend to actually try to cover up a little bit to not be so noticeable in terms of my skin color, so I won't wear... Like, you know, how I like to wear, like, tank tops in the summer and, like, short shorts and things like that. But, like, in the summer, if I go home...
You're like in a moo-moo.
Yeah, basically. I'm just in a big, giant trash bag. I don't know, just weird, like, little things that I noticed I've done over the years where I'll dress more conservatively. I will... You know, I wear nail polish all the time. I don't wear nail polish when I go home.
Take it off.
Yeah, I'll make sure that it's all white clean. And yeah, I don't know. I'll even dress a little differently. I'll dress in, like, Iowa Hawkeye football clothing and wear caps and...
Caps?
Yeah.
We call them just hats.
What the fuck?
I know, I think it's funny, it's cute. We wear caps. Like a little cap.
A little cap.
Yeah, I think it's interesting having a safe space, but also code switching to survive?
Yeah,
I guess?
in a way.
Yeah, it's like queer code switching.
Right.
Interesting.
And this is coming from two men who... Well, I don't consider myself someone who identifies as straight passing.
Sorry, I was drinking
really
again.
drinking.
I'm out of my drink, but it was just so tasty. No, I don't know. Even the term straight passing is, like, weird. I try not to use it as much as I used to, because I feel like it can... Like, what is straight?
Yeah,
what is
true.
gay? But, like, at the same time, society feeds us a idea of what a gay man or gay woman or trans person would look like and act like. So, in that sense, no, I don't think I would pass as, like, someone who would
I'm not trying to say, like, I'm considering myself someone who passes as straight, but more in the sense of a nobody, a Joe nobody from the middle of nowhere. Would they look at me and based off of what they tend to think, you know what I mean?
I think it's funny because, like, I still laugh when people are surprised. They're like, Kyle's gay?
Yeah.
Like, what are you... What?
Where have you been?
Where have you been?
You introduce yourself as Kyle Gay Bachman.
I'm Kyle Gay Bachman. Find me on Instagram. But it's weird to me. I don't know. It's like, I try not to police myself as much as I used to because it just kind of degrades your mental health.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, I'm just going to live my life, and if you hate me, whatever.
Yeah.
I like me.
Yeah. Well, someone does.
And that one person out of a room of 100 believed in me.
Yeah.
Is that what Gaga says?
Something like
I don't
that.
even know.
Yeah. Alright, well, do you have anything else that you'd like to add?
Not
No.
I feel good. I feel like that drink was delicious. If you like,
Kyle's already walking to the kitchen to get a new one.
I'm not walking. I'm gonna slide there on my chair. But I almost just broke the chair. So nothing is safe.
Yeah.
So if you like what we talk about, if you hate what we talk about, please, we would love to hear from you.
Mm-hmm.
You can reach us at fearthequeerpodcast@gmail.com. You can also follow us on Instagram at fearthequeerpodcast.
And you can also like us on Facebook, facebook.com/fearthequeerpodcast. And for this episode, we're going to try and post links to places like Center of Halstead and things like that, just in case for anyone's listening out there who doesn't have much knowledge about where they could find resources such as these. We'll try to post links to them so that way you can research and do a little bit further investigation on if they're the right place for you.
Right.
Yeah. And we're not saying everything is good for everyone. So don't feel like you have to be pressured to go out to a gay bar just to feel good, you know? But anyway, as always, I'm Josh.
And I'm Kyle.
And we're
Fear the Queer.
Bye!
Oh, another drink.